Hi, I'm delighted to be joined today by Paul Atkinson, serial investor, founding partner at Par Equity and major shareholder in the Taranata Group. Hi, Paul, how are you?
Yeah, great, thanks. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm very good, thank you, very good, and appreciate your time today. I know you're a busy man.
Yeah, not at all. Glad to give some time up.
Um, at the risk of causing offence by calling you a business veteran, I think your length and depth of experience means you'll have seen and experienced quite a few things over the years. Um, how does the current situation compare with previous industry shocks and recessions that you've seen?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, Mark. I mean, I think this is the fourth recession I've had in my business career, um, and the most unusual one. I think the difference between this and the banking crisis is that the COVID impact has hit every area of society right around the world. The banking crisis was limited to certain sectors mostly, um, and so it is very, very different. And I think I don't think it's yet clear how we're going to emerge from it, particularly. Obviously, the financial impact, the people impact is huge, but the financial impact, I think, is also extraordinary. And is it going to be a W-shaped downturn, a V-shaped, an L-shaped? I think you could find somebody who's got an opinion on every one of those different scenarios.
Yeah. What's your own personal view from what you're seeing around the kind of Scottish business community just now?
Um, if you take the technology sector, which is where Par Equity mostly operates, all of the investors in that sector have spent, as you would expect, the first few weeks after lockdown triaging their existing portfolios to see where the pain points are going to be. In Par's case, we've got 40 companies in the portfolio. Actually, our view of our portfolio is generally in pretty good shape, and since lockdown we've closed another 60 investment rounds and we've invested in one new company. So we're still very much open for business. Now, not every investor is in the same situation on that, and what we're trying to do to give our businesses resilience through this process is giving them at least 18 months of cash flow runway to get us hopefully to the other side of this. So, but our planning horizon is that we're really planning for the worst, I think, and hoping for the best. So we're doing it that way around. So we're planning for the pain to be perhaps into the middle, maybe even towards the end of next year before we really start to emerge properly. I'm kind of hopeful personally we might start seeing some green shoots quite a long time before then. But that very much depends on how lockdown unravels and whether or not we get an antibody test over the next few weeks and whether or not we get a vaccine that might work. So I think there's some dependencies there. So I don't think it's clear yet, but our planning assumptions are plan for the worst and hope for the best and look for the green shoots. We've certainly got plenty of dry powder, so we certainly intend to continue doing new deals.
Very good. And we've started to see quite a lot of collaboration across industry sectors. I know you've been heavily involved in things like the Tech Army initiative, the Scottish Business Resilience Centre work, and the Scottish Business Cares that's been coming out on the back of that. I mean, how do you think the kind of Scottish business community has reacted to this?
I actually think the Scottish business community has come together extremely well. Lots of collaboration. I think people have been very transparent and open about their lessons learned, and here's some advice to give you in terms of what we did, and that's been really interesting. I think SBRC and Scottish Business Cares approach has now done 20 seminars, reaching 3,000 companies over that period across the Central Belt, Dundee and Aberdeen more recently. And it's been really interesting to get different stories and what people are doing and how they're responding. I would say professional services, as in accounts and legal sector, quite similar to recruitment in some ways. There is demand out there for them, and of course there is likely to be significant demand for insolvency practitioners in the near term. That's not really kicked in yet. But the level of collaboration is extraordinary, actually. Competitors, collaborating with competitors on initiatives that help in general Scottish business. There's about 300,000 SMEs in Scotland, which is the vast majority of our employment base. So the SME community is hugely important, and so the SBRC approach and getting support and help to these organisations has been really pretty critical. I'm also involved in chairing Converge, which is the organisation that creates startups out of the university sector for all of Scotland's universities. And we've actually had record applications. So we're going to continue the applications this year. It'll all be done virtually, obviously. Physical events will be not really possible until later in the year, but we're continuing on. So there's certainly, I think one of the things that I would highlight is that out of every downturn we've ever had previously, we've had a lot of new startups post the downturn, and I think that will be the same this time, and maybe even more so. I think there's a few mega trends it's really kicked forward really quickly. The digitisation of businesses has probably accelerated by 3 years as a direct result of everyone having to work from home and work remotely. I think we're going to see different operating models in terms of remote working, home working. As I think I said to the team at Change, I think we'll see companies in Canary Wharf hiring finance directors who live in Edinburgh and not have to travel to London to work. So UK-wide recruitment will become much more fluid, I think, and companies much more willing to accept people working remotely. And I suspect in the professional services and office environment, professional environment, I think you're going to be talking probably 20-25% of the workforce will be working from home or remotely, or in some kind of hybrid combinational model. And that's going to be a big change. The investment in healthcare, I think, that's really accelerated as well, particularly digital healthcare, remote monitoring. So we have a company in our portfolio, Current Health, that's working with the Mayo Clinic in the States. The phone's ringing off the hook with demand for their remote digital monitoring solutions. And so again, that's going to accelerate. And of course, the old kind of seeking vaccines, antivirals, antiviral drugs, drug discovery. I think the authorities now and the regulators are now in a position where they're really trying to look very hard for ways of accelerating time to market for new therapeutics, new drugs. And I think that's pretty key as well. And then you've got the kind of sustaining kind of future mega trends, impact of artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics. I think as a result of this, these areas will get accelerated a bit as well. But I do see technology leading out of the downturn, and new technology-driven business models leading out of the downturn, even for more traditional businesses. And probably hospitality-based event businesses and so on will probably be lagging behind that, and the airline sector, for example. All sectors will come back, but they'll probably come back in a different form. There will be a new norm, but there'll be some benefits to the new norm as well.
Mm-hmm. But you would expect this new norm, the way home working, etc., to be accelerated. You don't see the clock getting turned back and people going back to the way things were pre-March or whenever it is we went off on lockdown.
I think we will see some of that. But if you think about where most businesses want to be right now as a result of this, the COVID impact and lockdown is completely unprecedented. I mean, basically we shut for business overnight. That's never happened before. And it really showed how it showed the lack of resilience to that kind of impact in the whole business sector. So I think if you think about your risk chart for your business now compared with pre-COVID, you've got a completely different list of questions on the risk chart. And that will change business models. I think companies will focus on keeping fixed overheads to a minimum, and their office space is one of the fixed overheads. Companies will move much more towards a variable overhead idea. I don't know what that means for the long-term impact on commercial property. I'm actually quite gloomy about that as an investment sector. But new business models will drive new kinds of office space. I think we'll see much more kind of hot desking, flexible working, drop-in centres, and so on. So I think we'll see different ways of operating and different structures for offices. I think we will still have offices. I don't think we'll ever see the day where everybody all works from home. I think it's a mistake for businesses, though, just to go back to operating the way they did previously. if they don't learn something from this, then they've lost the opportunity. I don't think anybody should waste a good crisis to try and improve their business models.
Yeah.